Welcome back to Workplace 30. We're starting on 7.2, which is the cosine law. We're going to start by reading the Explore the Math on page 260. So we have our cosine law, which is a squared equals b squared plus c squared minus 2bc cos a. Remember that capital letters are your angles, and across from them are the small letter, which is the side length. So notice that in your cosine law, you'll always have an opposite pair on opposite sides of the equation. So here we have little a and big A. You could rewrite this any way, but you'd always have to have a pair of opposites on either side. So you could rewrite this as b squared equals a squared plus c squared minus 2ac times cos b, because then again, little b and big B are on opposite sides of the equation. So that's always how it has to be set up. Now you use the cosine law if you have an SAS triangle. What this means is that you have a side, an angle, and a side, where the angle is in between the two side lengths. The other option is when you have an SSS triangle, which means you have all three side lengths. You can find an angle then across from any one of the side lengths. So let's look at example 1. We're going to solve for the unknown side length using the cosine law. So we're looking for a. Notice that they have done this wrong. This should be little a because it's a side length, not an angle measure. So to set this up, if it's little a that we're looking for, that goes on the outside. It does not matter then which one is b and which is c. So we'll have b squared plus c squared minus 2bc cos capital A, because capital A here would be our angle. Then we just plug in what we know. So we don't know little a, but we know b is 52, c is 16, again b is 52, c is 16, and a is 115 degrees. So to figure out a, we're just going to start using BEDMAS rules to figure this out. So the first thing that we need to do is our exponents. So we're going to square 52 and square 16. We can also add them together since they're on their own. So when we add them together, we get 2,960 minus 2 times 52 times 16 times cos 115 is going to give us a negative 703.2. So when you subtract a negative, they turn to a positive. So we'll get a squared equals positive 3,663.2. And finally, to get a by itself, we need to square root both sides. So our side length a equals 60.5 units, whatever that is. The next example here is the exact same, so please give it a try. So the last example we did was the SAS kind. This is SSS because we have three side lengths. So here we want to find this angle. So this angle will be on opposite sides of the equation of 14. So we need to start with 14 squared as the number on the left side of the equal sign. Equals 20 squared plus 12 squared minus 2 times 20 times 12 cos A. And again, it wouldn't really matter what you label that as long as 14 and A are on opposite sides of your equation because they're opposites from each other. So here we're trying to find A. So we again do all of our squaring first. So we'll get 14 squared, and we'll have to move our 20 squared and our 12 squared to the other side by subtracting them. So when we subtract them to the other side, and after we've squared everything, you're going to end up with negative 348 on this side. Then we can multiply out the 2 times 20 times 12 cos A, and it's a negative sign in front. So we'll get a negative 480 times cos A. Now how do we get cos A by itself? Okay, we need to divide by 480 and carry the negative sign with it. So 348 divided by 480, our negatives turn to positives. And we're going to get 0.725 equal cos A. Now this makes sense because remember that you always need a small decimal number in order to actually find an angle. So then you, on your calculator, hit your second function button to do your inverse. So inverse of 0.725 is going to give you the measure of angle A equals 43.5 degrees. You should have got the measure of angle X to equal 41.7 degrees. So now we're going to go to Math on the Job on page 260, and we're going to find the length of this pond given this information. So to start, we need to figure out what kind of triangle we have. Here we have a side length, an angle, and another side length. So it is an SAS situation, and we're going to plug that in then to our cosine law. So we've got a squared equals b squared plus c squared minus 2bc cos a. This case, a would be our 22, and little a would be our pond. So I'm going to start using p for the pond. So p squared equals 95 squared plus 95 squared minus 2 times 95 times cos of 22. So when we go 95 squared plus 95 squared, we'll get 18,050. 2 times 95 is also 18,050 times cos 22. Now be careful. I've seen over and over again how people will right away subtract the two 18,050s. We actually have to multiply first according to BEDMAS. So we multiply 18,050 times cos 22 to get 18,050 minus, which is 16,736. After we subtract them, we get p squared equals 1,314, square root both. So the length of the lake is going to be 36.3 meters. Now you can check that that makes sense because here we have two larger angles across from a smaller angle, so the pond should be smaller than your other two side lengths. And last, you have an assignment. It's on your worksheet, which can be found on the Moodle titled 6.2 Cosine Law.